Court is now in session. Today's case involves a betrayal so dark it sounds like a movie, a best friend who swapped babies at birth just to steal a life, and a husband that wasn't hers. You're the jury today. Listen to the evidence, witness the intuition of a mother, and let me know your verdict in the comments. How do you recover from a lie this big? Let's dive in. I've known Elena since we were toddlers. Our mothers were best friends, we went to the same schools, and we even shared a dorm in college. She wasn't just my best friend, she was the sister I never had. When I married my husband, Mark, Elena was my maid of honor. She cried louder than my own mother during the vows. At the time, I thought it was out of joy. Looking back, I realized those were tears of pure, venomous envy. Mark is a good man. He's a successful pediatric surgeon, kind-hearted, and incredibly handsome. Elena always joked that I won the lottery with him. She struggled with her own relationships, always dating bad boys who left her heartbroken. I spent countless nights holding her while she sobbed, telling her she'd find her own Mark one day. I didn't realize she didn't want a Mark. She wanted my Mark. She had been in love with him since the day I introduced them, but she played the part of the supportive sister perfectly. The madness truly began when we both got pregnant. It was a miracle coincidence. Our due dates were only 4 days apart. We went to prenatal yoga together, decorated our nurseries together, and even joked that our kids would grow up to get married. Then came the night of the storm. I went into labor 3 weeks early. Coincidentally, or so I thought, Elena's water broke just 2 hours later. We ended up in the same hospital, in rooms right next to each other. Because of a massive storm outside, the hospital was understaffed and chaotic. I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, Leo, at 3 a.m. Elena gave birth to her son, Toby, at 4 a.m. When the nurses brought the babies in for the first time, I felt a strange, cold shiver. I looked at the baby in my arms. He was beautiful, but something felt quiet. Mothers talk about that instant connection, but I felt a wall. I dismissed it as exhaustion and postpartum hormones. Over the next few months, Elena became obsessed with my life. She would visit every day, offering to watch my son so I could nap. But I noticed she spent more time staring at Mark than at the baby. Whenever Mark held our son, Elena would watch him with a look of pure, agonizing longing. She would make comments like, "He looks so much like you, Mark. If only he had your eyes." Meanwhile, I was struggling. I loved the baby I brought home, whom we named Toby, but as he grew, the physical differences became impossible to ignore. Mark and I are both tall with dark hair and olive skin. Toby was fair-skinned, had piercing blue eyes, and white blonde hair. Elena, on the other hand, is blonde and blue-eyed. Her son, Leo, looked exactly like my father, dark curls and a very specific, heart-shaped birthmark on the back of his neck. I mentioned the birthmark to Elena one day while we were changing the boys. She turned white. "It's just a mole, Chloe. Don't be paranoid. Babies change." But the seed was planted. I started watching her. I noticed that whenever she thought I wasn't looking, she would check the back of Toby's neck, looking for something. She was looking for the birthmark she knew he should have had if he were biologically hers. The breaking point came when Toby needed a minor surgery at 6 months old. Mark, being a doctor, looked at the blood type results. He frowned, his brow furrowing in a way that made my heart hammer against my ribs. "Chloe, Toby is O-negative," Mark said, scratching his head. "We're both AB positive. It's biologically impossible for us to have an O-negative child." The room went cold. Mark looked at me, and for a second, I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. He didn't say it, but I knew what he was thinking. Did she cheat on me? Mark, I have never been with anyone else. You know that, I whispered. But look at Leo. Look at Elena's son. Look at his hair. Look at his birthmark. We didn't tell Elena. We went to a private clinic and did a DNA test for Toby. 3 days later, the results arrived. 0% probability of maternity. 0% probability of paternity. I collapsed on the floor. My baby, the child I had carried for 9 months, was being raised by a woman who had been lying to my face every day. We didn't go to the police immediately. Mark pulled the security footage from the night of the birth. Because of the storm, the backup generators had kicked in, and some cameras were flickering. But we saw it. At 5:30 a.m., while I was sedated and the nurses were busy with an emergency in the ER, a woman in a hospital gown, Elena, walked into the nursery. She was in there for less than 60 seconds. She walked in with one bundle and walked out with another. She hadn't just swapped them for fun. She had noticed my son looked exactly like Mark. She wanted to raise Mark's child because she believed it would give her a permanent link to him. Her plan, as we later found out from her journals, was to eventually confess that she had a secret affair with Mark and that Leo was actually his, forcing Mark to leave me to do the right thing for his biological son. We set a trap. We invited Elena over for dinner. We acted normal until the wine was poured. Elena, Mark said, his voice deep and terrifyingly calm. Why does Toby have O-negative blood when Chloe and I are AB? Elena laughed, but it was high-pitched and brittle. Genetics are crazy, right? Maybe there's a throwback in your family. We did a DNA test, Elena, I said, sliding the papers across the table. He's not ours. And we have the footage from the nursery. We know what you did. The transformation in her was instant. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She lunged across the table, trying to grab the papers. He's mine now. You can't take him. I've been a better mother to him anyway. Mark was supposed to be mine. She started screaming that she loved Mark, that she had always loved him, and that I didn't deserve his perfect life. It was a psychotic break fueled by years of jealousy. The police arrived 5 minutes later. Elena was arrested for kidnapping, child endangerment, and a host of other charges. But this is where the story gets complicated. For 6 months, I had been raising Toby. I had stayed up with him during fevers. I had sung him to sleep. He knew my scent. He knew my voice. He was my son in every way that mattered. And Elena's biological son, Leo, my biological child, had been with her. The legal battle was a nightmare. The state wanted to restore the natural order immediately. But I looked at Toby, and my heart broke. He was an innocent victim in this. And Leo? He was my biological blood, but he was a stranger to me. Then, the final blow came. The father of Elena's baby, a man she had a one-night stand with specifically to get pregnant at the same time as me, was a career criminal who was currently back in prison. He had no interest in the child. If the state took Leo from Elena, who was now in a psychiatric prison ward, he would go into foster care because Elena's parents had passed away. I looked at Mark. I knew what we had to do. We fought the state. It took a year and almost all of our savings, but we did the impossible. We sued for custody of both children. We argued that because of the trauma and the unique circumstances, the best interest of the children was to stay together as brothers. Today, Toby and Leo are 4 years old. They are inseparable. They think they are twins. Toby has Elena's blue eyes and my husband's middle name. Leo has my curls and my husband's smile. They are both my sons. My family is bigger, louder, and more complicated than I ever imagined. Elena is still in a state facility. She sends letters sometimes, rambling about how one day Mark will realize the truth. We don't open them. People ask me all the time, how can you love a child that was the result of a woman trying to ruin your life? My answer is always the same: Toby didn't choose his mother. He chose me the first time he reached for my hand in that hospital room. Elena tried to use a swap to tear my family apart, but all she did was make it unbreakable. She wanted to steal my husband, but instead, she gave me the greatest gift: 2 sons who love each other more than anything in the world. So, jury, did I do the right thing by keeping both children, or should I have sent Elena's biological son to a different family to erase her from my life? What's your verdict? Let me know in the comments.